Welcome to where the screen door slams and the coffee mug hits the table. You're listening to The Family Balancing Act with me, Maureen Huntley, mom, grandmother, and board-certified holistic and functional medicine health coach. Each episode will explore the realities of your day-to-day family life in this modern era of nonstop texts, memes, and technology. After all, how do we keep ourselves sane and our family healthy? I'll have amazing guests and thought-provoking discussions, and we'll take a holistic look at family health, emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual. Whether it's a micro perspective of family involving healthy snacks, teenagers with an attitude, stressed out husbands, partners, adult children, potty training, elder care, grandchildren, college prep, or a macro perspective of world events, including flu, earthquakes, the brainwashing media, finances, and oh, so much more. We'll find a way together. So take a deep breath, exhale, and know that you're not alone. Bring on the Family Balancing Act. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Family Balancing Act, where we are restoring the heart of motherhood, one conversation at a time. If you've been here with me before, well, welcome back. And if this is your first visit, well, it's an honor to have you here, truly. So come on in, pull up a chair, grab a tea, coffee, or a green juice, or maybe even a cup of soup, because we have a lot to talk about today with my guest, Jackie Greene, founder of Simply Soupreme Health and Wellness. She's a motivational keynote speaker, Alkalinity and Divinity. She's an author, mentor, God's daughter, wife, mother, grandmother, and yes, serial entrepreneur. I'm Maureen, your host, board-certified integrative holistic and functional medicine health coach, EFT practitioner. I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother, wife, and CEO of my family's home operations. If you miss any of our episodes, you can always find us on multiple podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify, Podbean, Pandora, iHeartradio, Podcast, Weezer, CTR Radio Network, and more. So sign up for my monthly newsletter and grab my free year-round holiday stress-less tips at MaureenHuntley.com, where you can also learn how to work with me. I love what I do. Holistic solutions for health and well-being for women, moms, and their families. So deep breath and exhale. It starts with you. So it's spring, and it's that time of year where we clear up and out. Time to take personal responsibility for all the stuff in our lives, ourselves, our actions, and our thoughts, right? Well, personally, I'd like to think I do, but I don't always do. Not at all. I mean, I'm human, and being human, I kind of do things like put off doing the right thing, like reaching out to a relative that I haven't checked in on in eons, or clean out the fridge, the closet, or the cabinet. Oh, how about under the sink in the bathrooms, kitchen, and laundry room? Or maybe it's a bill I haven't paid. Or even worse, it's like a big conversation that has the possibility of going south, so I'll just avoid it totally until I can't. But I'll whine about it, try to ignore it, run from it, get so busy with other stuff that maybe it'll just go away. But there it is, staring at me, gnawing at my thoughts, until I finally do something. It's about taking personal responsibility for all of it. The micro, macro, our little world, our bodies, our homes, towns, planet, our friends, our neighbors, our families. We face what is our personal responsibility every single day. And we can choose to ignore it, push it away every day, or maybe we can face it and do something about it because it's liberating to do so. It's the right thing. I can agree that yes, when I made the phone call and finally cleared the cabinets and cleaned up, it is liberating. It's done. It gives me freedom and space. Yet when I look at the state of the world, I become absolutely overwhelmed and stuck and want to run away from it. I don't want to face it. Our world is changing, and we're being called to do and be better human beings. Can you hear it? To take personal responsibility for our part in it. Okay, maybe we choose to do nothing. But what does that do? When a better choice might have been to take a look under the hood. In other words, find out what in the world is going on, taking personal responsibility and using your voice rather than just complain about it. I get stuck on the why is the food on the shelves of the grocery store so full of sugar and bugs? Yeah, bugs. Or how come during the pandemic, churches and other places of worship were closed, but the liquor stores were open? Quoting Entrepreneur magazine contributing author Danielle Mangina, unless you accept full personal responsibility for everything in your life, you're giving away your power to change it. This is where so many people go wrong when they set out to change their lives. So what do? Out of instinct, the finger starts pointing outwards at all the extenuating circumstances that you have conspired to thwart your efforts. Ego gets involved, and blame and shame show up, your buddies. So what's the antidote for personal responsibility? How do you do it? Love, prayer, meditation, self-forgiveness, and those teeny tiny steps forward. When we delve deep into love, forgiveness, kindness, it is best said, I believe, in 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Your choice to take personal responsibility. Love. My guest today, again, is Jackie Greene. She is broker sales associate at Coldwell Banker, Inc., and she's CEO of Greene Investments, founder of Simply Soupreme Health and Wellness, motivational keynote speaker, Alkalinity and Divinity, author, mentor, God's daughter, wife, mother, grandmother, and serial entrepreneur. I am so honored to have my friend, and I can't wait to have this conversation with you. Welcome, Jackie.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, but I really mean it. Everybody says that when they get onto a podcast or what have you, but you have my heart. I absolutely love and adore you, Maureen.
Oh my gosh, right back at you, woman. Love fest. Oh, it's great. And it's great to have these conversations. And I have to say, since I started the podcast 6 months ago now, almost 6 months ago, 5 months ago, it's been a slow walk for me. in many ways to go. I talk about spirituality from the moment I get out of bed in the morning, or out of the gate. I'll talk about spirituality and being grateful for all that there is, and all the kindness, and connecting to ourselves, and meditating and praying. But rarely will I mention the name Jesus or the Holy Spirit. In the beginning, I did mention Our Blessed Lady, because I'd say the Rosary. And just because I was afraid of, the kickback, I'll lose, I won't get anybody to listen to me. I want to get anybody to hear me, but I'm feeling the call that we need in this world of ours to get aligned, alkalinized. I'm not even saying that word right, but to get back to alkalinity and divinity. That's why the name that you've come up with for your, which you're launching and which you have launched, is absolute perfection.
Thank you. Thank
So,
you.
oh, it's just so. If you don't mind my asking, can you tell our listeners a little bit about your journey? How'd you get to this point?
Sure. So first I'll tell you the alkalinity and the divinity. What does that even mean? Because unless people know me or have met me or started to follow me, they're like, well, what does that even mean? So as I said, I'm a God's girl. You say Jesus, I say my buddy, my BFF, right? Alkalinity is when everything is in a homeostasis. And I always like to marry things up from the practical to the scriptural. So homeostasis, everything in balance, all things working together for our good. The divinity part is that power of the prayer, back to the alkalinity. God planted everything here on earth. He was a gardener. He started in the Garden of Eden, right? So he gave us the answer to every situation, every sickness, every dis-ease is here on earth. So he brought us in alkalinity. And then he shared that divinity with us, because he said the Holy Spirit, that some people don't want to mention, that Holy Spirit that's really alive and living within us, he called us the temple. And in that temple is where the Holy Spirit would choose to dwell. So that's why keeping this temple in an alkaline state, all things in balance, all things working together for good, my heart knowing how to beat, my blood knowing how to circulate, my liver knowing how to cleanse, just like he set it up. So that's the crux of it. The power of the plant, the power of prayer, coming together and creating an unstoppable life, which is what he created us to be, unstoppable. Above all, be of prosper and be of health. Now, how I got here, well, I always had this inner connection with a higher power. You know, as a little girl, I had the little Bible books. And as I got older, I had the little white Bible. And I would read it because I knew that there were answers in there, but I never understood it. I didn't know what the thee and the thou. And I was brought up Catholic. And I was, the chubby little kid with the bad uniform because the pleats never lined up. Okay, that was like, I did all of that. But there was more. There was more to it. And there was always that little like whisper in my ear, but I didn't really have the ears to hear it. But I knew I was being groomed for such a time as this. My passion, my draw, whenever I wanted to learn or lean into something, it was always about plants and herbs and Chinese medicines. I was odd. I'm still odd. It says in the Bible that we are peculiar people. I'm okay being
okay? Thank you for saying that.
Because I'm really good being me. I don't want to be somebody. I want to be who I was created to be. And so I would sit in the library on the floor by myself because I came from a dysfunctional family who didn't. And I was just drawn to this information. And then later on in life, fast forward, my first husband passed and I was 32. And I had these 3 little boys, 3, 6, and 9. But see how all things work together for our good. He was a builder. He was a larger than life builder developer. And in my married time with him, he taught me all about the housing industry. Now, I didn't know that I was being groomed, but God knew what was going on because he knows the end from the beginning, and he knows all about the mess in the middle. And so when Jeff had passed, I literally had a conversation with God. I'm like, okay, so now what? I have prayer meetings in my house. I had a food pantry in my garage for people that needed food. I would pray for people. I was nobody, but I had somebody inside of me. And then when he passed, I'm like, see, this is what's going to happen now. People are going to expect me to get mad or angry and say, oh, see, you talk about that Jesus, and then look at what happens to you. And I was like, no, it's whatever it is, it's all going to be okay, because I had that unsurpassing peace within me. And literally within 5 months, I had my real estate license and I was walking, my steps were ordered. And everywhere I went, the door that I knocked on would open. And for 17 years, my real estate business skyrocketed. I could do no wrong. I was like the queen of new construction in New Jersey. There wasn't a builder or developer that I hadn't met with, that I hadn't persuaded, that I hadn't worked with. And then the market crashed. And then we get to that point that we all get to in our lives, unfortunately, where we have to reinvent ourselves. And it was back to the prayer closet again. Lord, what do I do now? I'm not on purpose. I'm not waking up like ready to go. Who am I going to help? What am I going to do? Where are we going to go today? It's not working. And he said, or is it? And that's where I took a few days. I went to Florida by myself and I write the vision, make it plain. Though it tarry, it will happen. And I wrote the new vision. I wrote the new vision that all these years of learning about plant and understanding the power of prayer and sickness all around me and a husband that had a massive heart attack at age 40, how could I help other people to change their lives, to live differently? How could I share with what's been downloaded in me for years and teach them how to eat differently, because you'll feel differently. And when you feel differently, you'll think differently. And when you think differently, you'll live differently. And all of a sudden you're living an unstoppable life, again, pulling from the power of prayer. And so I came back and I told my family, I'm going to start a cooking and coaching company called Slenderella. They went, what? You're gonna make smoothies for people? Like Mom, you like pull down like $500,000 a year. And I'm like, yep, not happening anymore. It's not about that, it's about this. And so I started this cooking and coaching company. And as I spoke it into existence, doors would open, help would show up. I never really had to worry about the how, so long as I was embedded to my why. Why must I do this? Because when I did the real estate, my must was my children. I had those 3 little boys. I must get them to where they're supposed to be in life. Whatever I must do, I will do it because I want it that bad. And then they were established. Now it was my next must. And so I traded in my Gucci and my Prada for Crocs and an apron. And I ended up in Jersey City, and I was working. I learned from a chef. I worked with the chef. I ended up taking over her commercial kitchen. All of a sudden, now I've got this beautiful commercial kitchen, and I wanted that lather, rinse, repeat. And from there, it turned into this plant-based soup company, because I was cooking and coaching for people, but my 1-star hit was these soups. And my prayer was, Lord, I really just want one talking stick. I want one talking stick that will give me credibility as to everything that I know And so that when people say, because people love to say, well, where did you study? What university did you go to? No, it's experience, it's immersion in the situation.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden my clients were asking, do you have different flavors? And because the assistants would send it into, I was feeding CEOs, executives, and I was like, well, maybe this is a repeatable. And then that for 5 years, I was building this plant-based soup company in an industry that I had no business in being in. And I know that you know this because the beverage industry was not female friendly. And it was a big boy pay to play, but I didn't care. HPP was new. And I ended up connecting with one of the owners, and he took my little coolers. The tractor trailers were pulling up, and I would roll my little coolers in, and I drop it off to get a cold pasteurization to give it a shelf life. And then I ended up in stores, but along the way is how I met you. See, because all things are working together for good. And back a couple of years, I heard about, there's this lady, Mo Green. I think she's in Glen Rock. You should try and connect with her. And I'm like, oh, wow, I would love to. We always want to learn from those that have already done it. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We want to follow the path of success, right? But for 3 years, I didn't know how to meet you. And then all of a sudden now, because I need to get into a kitchen for my mass production of this soup, the landlord tells me, oh yeah, there's this lady down the hall, Maureen, and she's got a juice company. I'm like, really? And I call, I said, can I have her phone number? And I call her, and and we connected. But see, that's how all things work together for good when we're on point and we're on that purpose, that planned purpose, that destiny. So then fast forward, after the pandemic, because again, you're a new beverage, and again, it takes big money, and your burn rate for something like this is like 100,000 a month. The pandemic just came in, and I just said, all right, Lord, I don't want to push my rock up the hill anymore. And you tell me where and what you need me to do. And literally within weeks, I decided I was going to shut the company down. But with all this wisdom and knowledge, I need to share it, because what we have, each one of us has a gift within us. And if we hold it, that's just being selfish. So I then began to write books. People that I was introduced to have opened doors and platforms for me to speak on. I just came back from a beautiful women's conference in North Carolina. I'll head out in June to do another. And just being connected, having that silver cord of connection to your higher power. My higher power is God. It's Jesus. It's the Holy Spirit. Why? Because he's proven himself to me time and time again. In the Bible, it says, you will hear a little whisper behind your ear telling you in which direction to go. Do you know how many times I know that I know? I don't know what it is, but I know that I know. Stop the car, because all of a sudden somebody's coming racing by, and they would have nailed me. Go up to that woman and just tell her, you really look beautiful today. And she turns around and cries because she hasn't heard it in years. Having that connection is so important, because we're not here to hide. We're here to shine. And in this world, the way that it is, when you spoke about our personal responsibility, I'm responsible for my geography. And as I do what I'm commissioned and asked to do, because we have a free will, you can say no. God's answer is never no. It's always yes. If it is a no, it's because there's a bigger yes ahead of it for you. But when we say yes, then our territory expands.
Just opens up.
Our geography opens up. Look at your geography right now. I mean, it's been expanded.
It is expanding. Thank you so much for sharing that. You're such a beautiful woman. And I know I've been so blessed to be on a part of the journey with you. And I'm telling you, her soups were like, blew my socks off. Brilliant idea. They were great. And in this, in the same way with my doing Mo Green juice, I felt inspired. I felt the rush of Christ coming through me. I felt that energy that's what I had to do. Mm-hmm. And I did it. I got scared. Mm-hmm. It was growing fast, furious, and I couldn't keep up. Mm-hmm. And instead of continuing to connect and to ask what my next step was, mm-hmm. I began to override it with my brain. Right. I trying to fix things myself. And then it would get to crisis mode where I would then be like on my knees begging for help. But it wasn't from a place of just knowing. And the wisdom, we talked about wisdom before we got on air. It's just that place of the calm acceptance of what we might not know as humans, but that to trust in God.
Right.
And isn't that on our money? Mm-hmm. Maybe they're taking it off right now, but it's truly to trust in God. Mm-hmm. And I love how you were able to do that. That's just beautiful, because the way I chose was very uncomfortable, but it was the way that was intended for me to go. I needed to walk that path because I needed to get to this moment right here, right now.
Right.
And yes, that was a lot of acid instead of being alkaline. And although I talked about the alkalinity with the green juices and eating the greens and having a healthier mindset, but sometimes we have to walk through, we've got to clean under the cabinets. We've got to look at this stuff. And even when we're avoiding it, it's not going away. No. It's going to show up somehow.
But when we clean it up, and this is where the practical comes in with the scriptural or the biblical, or however you want to position it. If I'm filling myself with sugars and processed foods and the water alone, the water that we bathe in, the chemicals that we put on our body, the air that we breathe in, those are mostly we can't really control for the most part, right? I mean, mm-hmm. You can spend thousands of dollars on a water filter, but the average person is not going to do that.
Right.
So think about the person that commutes daily in and out of a major city. They're on mass transportation. They're around all these different people. They're in dirty subways. They're sucking in gas fumes from buses waiting. These are all toxicities that go into our body. And then on top of that, we go and we eat candy bars to pick us up, and lattes loaded with sugar, and fast food, because by the time we get in, we're so. And then life happens. Life be life in. Mm-hmm. And now we have to deal with that. Well, how can I deal with it when I'm so out of balance? I'm so out of line that this little situation seems so big to me right now. And then it snowballs. Then we take a deep breath down and we say, okay, I'm going to start to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to start to make sure that if I do nothing else before my feet hit the floor in the morning, I'm just going to say, Lord, where do I need to go? What do I need to do? And will I have everything when I get there? And that simple submission is a yes. And then maybe instead of having 3 cups of coffee with cream and sugar, maybe I'll only have 1. And maybe I won't put the sugar in it today. And I'll start a new habit. And throughout the day, I'm going to make sure I drink some extra water.
Lots of water. Lots
and
of
like
water.
These little baby steps. Like if we have 52 weeks in a year and each week I do something, just one thing, one good thing for me, that's me being responsible for myself, right? One good thing at the end of the year, can you imagine how your life would have changed by maybe 1 cup of coffee, no sugar? The next week, adding water. Now it's 1 cup of coffee. Now it's water every day. And maybe at lunchtime, I have a salad. Okay, so now it's coffee, water, salad. And each week I add something in. When that little problem comes, it'll be like, Lord, you deal with it, because I'm busy. I got a woman crying in front of me and I want to hug her. Or, I'm 2 months behind in the water bill. And then all of a sudden something happens where it's paid, or you have a creative idea to go and put your hands to the plow that are going to get blessed. It works. I'm living proof that it works.
And it does work. And it's absolutely just, I'm in awe when it does in my own life. Today, I had a dental appointment prior to our recording. And I love this woman who's my dental hygienist anyway. I love her. I can't wait to see her. When I do see her, I get to see her like 2 or 3 times a year. And because I'm really on it, on the dental, like going to the dentist, but there's no fluoride and there's no x-rays. Don't do that. I just do your basic, clean my teeth and I'm good to go. And my poor dentist, he looked at me today and he goes, well, just know I'm always here if you need me for something. That's the big joke. I haven't needed him, but that's because I'm making other choices.
Right.
But when I was in her space, we were both so excited to see each other, and you kind of, life goes on. It's not like I forgot about her. I just forget about that energy of being around her. And the two of us were like holding hands, and then she prayed over me. And I felt this, like the two of us were like crying, and I felt this surge of energy. And that is not something, and I too grew up as a Catholic. They do go to mass often, and I don't always feel that surge of energy because I'm doing things by rote and not connecting with another human. In that moment, I felt the presence of God, because where 2 are gathered in his name,
there he is.
Yes.
I say this because I live it, because I see the outward examples of what's inside of me. It says that God is not a man that he should lie. So where he sends his word to, it will accomplish what it's been sent to do. So if he cannot lie, then whatever word is written in his Bible is true. It's only true if you believe it to be true. What did Henry Ford say? If you believe you can, you can. And if you believe you can't, you can't. Whatever you believe to be true is true. Choosing to believe is an action. It's an act of faith, and he will meet you where you're at. So he will give you little breadcrumbs along the way on your path that eventually equal a full loaf of bread, the answer to your prayer. And then he'll crumble it up again, and he'll put you on another
Doesn't he though?
path.
Yes.
It's the process. This is why he said that, count your trials and tribulations as joy. He said, you're going to have trials. You're going to have tribulations, but I'm never going to leave you. But are you going to believe that I'm actually there with you? And we grow into it. It's a process. Some people do just wake up and they have that. I didn't, but little by little, the things that he did in my life. I mean, when I look back at, so I fell asleep behind the wheel. I think I was like 18 years old, and I rolled down this embankment like 40 feet down. I drove off of an exit on the parkway,
Oh,
And
my.
and by rights, I should not be here. And 3 cadets saw me drive off the road, like off over the guardrail. And when they came to get me, my seat, nothing was wrong with my seat. The rest of the car was just smashed. It was a sandwich, but my seat was protected. You know, like he always keeps me. When my first husband passed like that, I never went without. I had everything I needed, and I had been groomed, all like I said, to become this top producing real estate agent. It's amazing when we can trust him, how he establishes everything before. And when you trust him to walk in that path, it's a beautiful path. It's beautiful.
Beautiful. The way you've described this is just outstanding. In my past, and I think for many people, you know, the movie The Secret came out. I was onto The Secret, oh gosh, in college, like, you know, 80s, way before there was any movie called The Secret. And then that movie came out, and I was like, oh, cool. This is, yeah, it's kind of like what it is, but I knew it was a little bit out of range for, you know, it sounded too good to be true. Like all you have to do is write this or think this or put that in front of you, and it's going to show up like magic. And now here I am multiple years later, and I can look back and I have been able to intend and manifest so much in my life, so many wonderful things. I'm able to manifest money at times. It's just things can happen, but it's not, the manifestation is not of man. It is coming from God. And if it's coming from another lower energy, that is not of man either. So there is this battle of understanding, I believe. I wanted to say truth, but I think it's understanding. We're getting caught up in the semantics, the words being used. To manifest or intend is to pray.
Right.
And to think that we control it all, we don't. It is the energy of the Christ consciousness.
Right.
So, yeah, like, wow, man, I love this conversation.
I can remember sitting on the beach in Long Branch, and I was newly widowed at that point. And, you know, in all honesty, I mean, you go through all these different emotional things, right? And so I remember reading The Secret, and I was like, well, this is great, and they're making millions of dollars over it, but it's the Bible, but they took Jesus out. That's all they did, was they took God out, and they put this this entity in. You know, I said before, speak things into existence as though they already be. That's what God said to do. He said, I want you to have enough faith in something that I want you to see the end result of it and speak it every day. And that's what I do consistently. As I'm praying, I'm speaking things into existence. If I'm worrying, I'm still praying. I'm worrying. I'm praying for what I don't want. So what do they say? Where your energy goes, where your thoughts go, energy flows.
Right.
So that's the same
where attention
thing. You are co-creating your own reality, but what you're focusing on, are you focusing on what you don't have or what you do have? What is left in your hand? Everything else may have been gone or taken from you, but what is still left in your hand that is there, that is the answer, that is going to create the wealth, the abundance, the increase, the overflow, the healing? What is left?
What is left? Hey, because
Word.
every thought every word, every action, every intention, everything creates, and it creates with the hand of God. We co-create with God. We do that through all of these actions, but as I even said in the beginning, it's like the words I'm using that are coming out of my mouth. And if they are whining, if I'm whining about, why is this going on in the world? What is, like, this isn't fair. Why are they selling this junk on the shelves? That does nothing other than to keep that stuff in front of me. There's always going to be contrast, the contrast between what we want and what we don't want. But if we only had what we wanted in front of us, we'd get lazy and we wouldn't put our attention on any of our wants. Right. We wouldn't get clear. We need the contrast of looking at the stuff on the shelf that, like, why is that there? Oh, I want that cleared off. Well, how do I do that? By adding in a whole lot of good stuff, a whole lot of greens. So I love the contrast piece. I love contrast in my life, because even with working with people who are, or moments or things going on in my life that are like I bump up against, I know it's just a reminder to go, stop, right, take a right, take a left, take a step back. You're not supposed to be going down this lane. Right. You have to go this way or that way. Right. But we need that reminder. I know I do.
Sometimes we just need to hit pause. Just need to hit pause, because it's easy. It's easy to be a bad person. It's easy to be cranky and in a bad mood, and well, you don't know what happened to me, and you don't know what that's easy. It takes time. It takes a mindset. It takes a personal excellence for yourself, that this is how I want to live. This is how I want to think. This is how I want to feel. This is what I want to accomplish. This is what I want my life to look like. But what do I need to do to have that? What am I willing to not do? What am I willing to give up? People that have done bad things to me, that's on them. It's on them. By putting them in an emotional prison, I'm locking myself out, right? It's changing your mind. They don't know better, so they need to do better.
Right.
I'm going to love them through it. You started with Corinthians. I love them through it.
I love that. That's probably one of my favorites, is just love. Love is everything. Yeah. Love is God. Getting back to the alkalinity for a moment, is that you have this wonderful Facebook group there where you do these wonderful meals. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the core is Alkalinity and Divinity, and the Facebook is Alkaline Living for everyone outstanding, because I believe everyone is outstanding. And so what I do is I'll pick a topic, I'll go through the different seasons, but I'll create, like, maybe I'll make a tomato rosemary soup, but I'm going to tell you why we should eat tomato, what rosemary will do, how it's an antibacterial and it's antiviral, and as we get into cold and flu season and all these different things, and how tomatoes are great for prostate cancer or help retard tumors. So I tell you the value of what you're eating, but I make healthy eating taste really good. So it's family friendly. And we lead by example. So if we're looking good and we're feeling good, other people are going to recognize it, and they're going to say, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, you look."
What cream are you using on your face? Yeah. What are you doing?
it's what we're putting in, it'll flow out and it'll attract others. And better than that, your body has the power to heal itself. Again, God gave us every plant here. Pharmaceuticals are simply taking what a plant does and they're recreating it in massive, massive volume because they're both chemicals. Our body is a chemical. Our body will respond to plants if they're put in the body properly. And those chemicals will counteract other chemicals like mushrooms. Mushrooms are amazing because it's a healing property for your body. It builds your immune system and it's wonderful for the brain. Alzheimer's, we should not have Alzheimer's. We should not have Alzheimer's right now. But there's ways to cure it. There's ways to retard it, to stop it. And the pharmacies aren't going to tell you that. But I bring you into God's pharmacy. I bring you into God's pharmacy and I show you all the little secrets and all the tips that he shared with me and he shared with many others. I just took the time to research it. And so that's what we do. We cook, we marry up the scripture because I always like to give you the why. Why are we doing this? I told you don't have to worry about the how because I'll show you how to do it and your body will heal. I get emails and text messages from people, 3 months, 6 months into it. And
God bless. That is fantastic. Really, I've watched multiple ones of them since you started doing it. And I kept watching them. And that's why I was like, I got to reach out to Jackie again. Because through COVID, it just sort of screwed up a lot of communication with people. You just sort of kind of weed out, but it's brilliant. You need to be on multiple platforms with that because the world needs that. The world needs all of us. We are needed to help to walk the path, shine the light. We all need each other. We're pinging energy off of each other all the time. But it's really great. Now I know you've written multiple books. You've got a workshop in September you were talking about that you're going to be putting together. I know it's just in the embryonic stages, but
so that'll be, come into the kitchen. I have a really cool venue in Somerville, New Jersey, a friend of mine, another woman entrepreneur. But in any event, I just like to invite people in. We'll chat for about an hour and a half. We'll taste some of the foods that I'm teaching you about. And you can take them back to your family and your friends. And then ultimately, it's a 3-day wellness retreat where you come on in for 3 days. I'll have a beautiful boutique hotel selected, and we're just going to immerse ourselves for 3 days in the power of plant and, of course, the power of prayer. And by the time you leave, your body is going to already be in the healing process, and life will never be the same. You'll be ready to, above all, I wish that you are of good health and you prosper. And prosperity is not always about money. It's about you and your life, that your life prospers. And that's what I want to offer to people. I want to help you to get to that place in life that you have been created to go to.
My gosh. Well, if there's anybody that can do it, I know it's you, Miss Jackie Greene. Truly it is. I've been so honored to know you for years now and to have you on the show. And I will, for our listeners, I'm going to have all of her information will be on the show description. And again, we'll be on all the podcast platforms. And our viewership or our listenership is definitely growing by leaps and bounds. And I know as we continue to grow, Jackie Greene will definitely be back on the show. I will drag you back in and we'll do this as we continue to co-create with God above, because that's the way forward. Amen. Amen. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. So if you could take a moment, just take in a deep breath, close your eyes if you're not driving, and take in a deep breath and exhale. And know that you're not alone. here on the Family Balancing Act.